to dealing with sexual harassment. Step 1, acknowledge that you're being sexually harassed. Step 2, tell a trustworthy adult. Step 3, write a detailed factual statement. Step 4, empower yourself by sharing your experience. Step 5, find ongoing support. Well, you may be wondering, Serena, why are you telling me this? Well, I have a little story of my own that I want to share with you guys today. It first started with making comments about the way I dress. If I wear shorts that show all my curves, then he will make comments about the color of my skin. He will look at my stomach and comments about how soft it looks. Soon after, it became physical. He will come next to me and start to rub my stomach while being incredibly impressed by the texture of my skin. Putting his arm around my back without permission became a daily routine. He gave me nicknames because I gained some weight in junior year, making me feel insecure about my wide shoulder and fat arm because I played sports. Comparing me to the car tire man because the rolls I have all over my body. He would talk about how skinny my leg used to be. Sometimes his word made me look at myself in the mirror for way too long, deciding to start on the diet. I want to make it stop, but I don't know how. His friend around him was used to his behavior. Everyone chose to be silent. Yet, I don't want to be viewed as a sensitive one, someone who couldn't take a joke. I numbed myself, allowing it to continue. But things only worsened in my junior year. One day, I was sitting in front of the front gate, waiting for my parents to come pick me up. I pretended to check on my phone when I saw him walk towards me. Next thing I know, his hand was sliding back and forth on my leg. He made comments about how little amount of body hair I have, how hairless I must have been down there. I screamed. I screamed silently. He laughed at his own sexual joke, thinking I can laugh with him. He may not remember that day, but for me, that moment lasted forever. After he left, I immediately panicked and wanted someone for help. So I finally told my friend about it. They were shocked, and they strongly suggested me to tell to a trustworthy adult. Step 1, acknowledge that you're being sexually harassed or assaulted. Sexual harassment ranges from unwanted touching, gesturing, and inappropriate jokes. Sexual harassment does not always have to be sexual. It can sometimes look or feel like teasing, intimidating, and offensive comments based on stereotype. Sexual assault is a physical invasion of your body. It can result in bodily harm, injury, as well as psychological and emotional trauma. Step 2, tell to a trustworthy adult. After taking my friend's suggestion, I told my teacher about it. She immediately contacted my counselor. After sitting down with my counselor, we did step 3. Write a detailed factual statement. In other words, making a Title VI complaint. This is one way, or the only way, school has some form of proof to investigate on. After filing the complaint, the laws require schools to respond in a reasonable way. Step 4, empower yourself by sharing your experience. I stand here before you today as a victim of sexual assault. As I learned from last year's TED Talk experience, telling your story is the most powerful tool you'll have. And that's what I'm doing today, telling my story. As Maya Angelou will say, there's no greater enmity than bearing untold story inside of you. Step 5, Find ongoing support. What had happened was not your fault. My parents had a different reaction, however. Why didn't you say anything? You should be more serious about it. Why is he bothering you at the first place? It's your fault. I'm too weak to say anything. This made me, the victim, feel like I was to blame. In 2017, the Me Too movement let me witness so many people standing up and telling their stories. They're part of the inspiration for me to stand here right now. And they are the people who gave me the bravery to say Me Too. So I started questioning my parents. Is it because boys will just be boys, or girls judging other girls for not fitting society's ideal? Since when do people think it's okay to make other people feel less of themselves? Whenever people question it, I always tell myself that it's never the victim or the survivor's fault. Do not let anyone blame or shame you. The Association of University Women looked specifically at public schools with students that are in grades 7 to 12 to compare their data called Crossing the Line Sexual Harassment at School. The report has found that nearly half, 50% of the students has experienced some form of harassment in their past school years. And 90% of them says it has a negative impact on them. However, schools did not report the same statistic. Tell me why, in 2015 to 16, a big flopping 79% of the schools reported no incidents on sexual harassment. The AEW has found that educational institutions in the United States are failing to prevent and address sexual harassment in schools. This is particularly true for women and girls. So, here's the basic guidelines for administrators. Step 1. Empower teacher to take stance against inappropriate joke or comments. Make sexual harassment a top priority. Step 2. Educate students about sexual harassment. Students must be taught the difference between friendly teasing and bullying, between flirting and harassment. Expectation must be clearly defined and explained. Step 3. Get parents involved. Parental involvement is a critical long-term behavior modification. In many cases, parents need to be educated in order to help them identify and respond appropriately. Step 4. Teach students how to deal with harassment. Ignoring the situation can often lead to a cycle of ongoing harassment and victimization. Before I wrap this up today, I just had to make a few points on why am I here and why am I telling you guys all of this. First, the ongoing harassment began in my freshman year, which means that it took me 3 years to finally filing a complaint to that particular student. And this point is particularly for people who unfortunately experience some form of harassment. The speech has nothing to do with forcing you guys to say anything when you guys are not ready. I want you guys to know that whenever you're ready, there will always be someone who is willing to listen. That for me, that's my friend, my teacher, my counselor, and even my parents. Next point is for everyone who fortunately may not experience what I experienced. This is for everyone. I want you guys to be more aware of your surroundings. What I mean by that is if you see anyone who's sexually harassing someone or making an inappropriate joke, please call on them. You will be shocked of how big of an impact that you guys are making by just doing that action. I mean, for a victim point of view, that can be life-changing. This brings me to my next point, which I realized in the past school years how lack of awareness schools have around this sensitive topic. I mean, our campus too, and many others too. We tend to see as sexual harassment as something to be embarrassing of, something that is shameful. I mean, 3 years ago, I was that girl who was too afraid to speak out because I'm too scared of what others might think of me. So I hope by giving this TED Talk, you guys can have a healthy conversation about this kind of issue, and hopefully we can all together to come up with a solution that can make this campus safer. Lastly, this is a little bit my personal point, but I want to say thank you for my parents, my mom and dad who is sitting in their audience seat right now. Thank you, although you guys didn't react appropriately when I first told you guys what had happened to me at school. But after talking about how I felt and how you guys felt, you have been the most supportive person I have known. So I just want to say thank you and love you so much. And to wrap this things up, I have a little message for people who are too afraid to speak out. Here's a little guideline for you. You are not alone. Thank you.